possible. But yes, according to the current situation that we see every day in the news, that many banks are getting these restrictions. So I think there has to be a way to deal with that, which we've found out, worked out with our legal teams, worked out with these government officials to make sure that we pave our way to get this through. So basically, just to let you know that this is going to be a revolution for the cooperative sector. Many banks across the state we're in touch with, and slowly and steadily we would be looking at taking over several banks across not just the state of Maharashtra, also in other states wherever they agree to make legislative changes. Now, also to let you know, we are in the process to basically infuse this capital with the permission of the Honorable Reserve Bank of India and the Corporate Ministry. Once we receive these permissions, the said funds, as discussed, 230 crores would be basically infused in the bank in two phases. Also to ensure that our revival board comes into the bank, the depositors and everybody has agreed to pass the said minutes in the AGM, where the revival board can actually go ahead and come in with our investment. And also to let you know, the most important factor, that during our discussion we did discuss about converting it into a small finance bank. There has been a case like that in the case of Shivalik Cooperative Bank, where that was converted into a small finance bank, so that's a test case which eventually happened. And also based on that, also PMC, and also a lot of things are basically there which the regulators would have to work on. But I think hopefully we should be able to get an in-principle approval from the RBI to convert it into a small finance bank. Until we don't get that, the bank will run as a cooperative bank until we receive the permissions, because I'm sure you agree that the process of getting these set permissions is time consuming, requires a lot of legislative, legal, a lot of advisory for the regulators also, so which they have to go through that process. So I think we're pretty much well prepared. We do understand the bank has a lot of potential with 11 branches, literally one head office and 10 branches. Also, I would like to let you know it's across Bombay and Thane, so which gives a pretty good coverage across Bombay. The other benefit with the bank is that it is a bank which has been there for a while, and I think it has its own history. And I think the depositors and the shareholders, everybody has been very supportive in the whole idea of the revival. And I would like to eventually also let you know that in case of the PMC situation, there were a lot of protests, a lot of issues which happened after Unity Small Finance Bank happened, was basically incorporated. But in our case, we don't see any of that. Why? Because we've had these dialogues with these depositors associations much before. Based on their acceptance, we've gone ahead with these proposals that were sent everywhere to the partners. Now the good thing is this, that you will also see this in the coming time, since we're also in touch with many banks. This would be our so-called takeover bank, which would be used for basically doing acquisitions in this space in many banks which are coming under the directions. So yes, on a regular basis, we would be infusing more capital and more fresh capital into the bank to make sure we basically realize our dreams of making one of the largest banking companies in the near future. And consolidation is something which I'm sure everybody is advocating, especially from a regulatory perspective, So I think that is the plan, that should be the idea, because I think when there are a lot of challenges in these smaller cooperative banks, smaller than the City Cooperative Bank. You see many unit banks are there, many small banks are there. The issue is, they don't really understand the fresher, they're not very aware of the new norms that keep on coming up, and they don't have a very professional management to take care of everything, which we personally feel we can bring in that expertise with the best professionals in the industry and also ex-regulators also, to make sure that we basically bring in the best people to run the bank and revive it. Now, to revive the bank, all it requires is basically infusion of capital so that the CRAR becomes positive, so that the negative net worth of the bank becomes positive. These are the only aspects which are important right now. And then yes, we'll be doing very tedious recovery with our legal team, which is going to be working voluntarily for the bank, So in fact, with one of the best legal teams in the country to ensure that recoveries are much faster and much better off. In fact, a good news for the bank bank's depositors and the shareholders, but a bad news for the borrowers. So I do want you to know that we're going to be very aggressive towards it, and we're very well versed with the system. We're very well versed with the processes, so we do understand what needs to be taken care of and from where. So, especially from a legal perspective. So if you're aware, we're very much aware of the whole policy framework that is in place. But I'm sure we're working with the regulators on a regular basis now, and we do request them, even the government, to come up with even better policies for these cooperative banks to revive in the near future. And I would also like to let you know that when we talk about consolidation that I just mentioned, which even RBI eventually advocates for, consolidation is something which we'll be doing. We are also already working on a couple of other banks in different states. And I think that would be the key to growth. Because at this point in time, it's very difficult to get branch licenses today. In fact, they've recently started after a good window of good 10 odd years. So they have not been giving those branch licenses for quite a while. So for us to understand is that with this so-called takeover of the City Cooperative Bank, we'd be also boosting our payment gateway business, bringing it, with the small finance, bank approval whenever we get it. We'd be taking it nationwide so that we can offer payment gateway services, to almost every business across the country. And not just with an acceptance of payments from people or businesses just from India. We would be empowering them with international acceptance, because we are already ISOs of several international banks, internationally. So I would also want, Mr. Rebello, the CEO of the bank, the general manager and CEO of the bank, to come and praise you about the bank and the financial situation and the benefits that this proposal is going to eventually give to the bank and its depositors. Everything is in the larger interest of the depositors. So please.